From this cemetery in Manchester, New Hampshire to the source in the Caribbean, we take you on an exclusive ride through the opioid pipeline that runs up the East Coast. The U.S. is focused on strengthening the northern and southern borders, but the back door is open, and an alarming number of dealers in drugs are flowing through to you. We hit the streets to find out what's really going on, learning from people you'd be too scared to talk to in neighborhoods you would never step foot in. I'm Celine McArthur. Beyond the border, the opioid pipeline starts now.
Engine 9 ALS 1 Delta response. Pine Grove Cemetery for an unconscious person.
A tragic scene on the south side of Manchester, New Hampshire, the final destination on the opioid pipeline. A 21-year-old Manchester woman is found passed out from a suspected heroin overdose in the driver's seat of her Honda Civic, parked alongside the tombstones in a back corner of the cemetery. After 4 doses of the overdose reversal drug known as Narcan, she's awake and apologizes to the first responders who just saved her life.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's definitely hard to wrap your mind around something like that. Worst thing is, if she was alone, and nobody called her, I don't know how long she would have been there, she probably would have died.
While this scene is certainly striking in its irony, a woman choosing to get high and risk dying in a cemetery, it's not surprising to American Medical Response Supervisor Rocco Caparello.
Seen it on highways, we've seen it in parking lots, we've seen it in restrooms, in restaurants, in stores. It happens anywhere.
And it's happening more and more often. April was the second highest month ever for overdoses in Manchester.
The month of April had drastically changed. We were seeing what we were seeing for, January, February, and March with 30, 40 overdoses, not this 50, 60, 70 overdoses. To have close to 90 for the month of April, almost doubling from previous months, was concerning.
This comes as the Manchester Police Department continues to aggressively track users and dealers.
I put more officers on the streets of Manchester than the history of the police department has ever seen.
And they're making more drug arrests, thanks in part to MPD's state-funded campaign called Operation Granite Hammer. But where are those dealers and users now? Sitting behind bars? In many cases, no. They simply walked through the revolving door of justice and back onto the streets. A Union Leader newspaper report found that in one recent Granite Hammer sweep, less than half of those arrested served time, and the longest sentence was 1 year. Manchester Police Chief Nick Willard refused an on-camera interview for this report, but in our last sit-down, he was overwhelmed by the enormity and complexity of the drug crisis.
I don't know what I'm doing. I have to tell you, it's frustrating, it's deflating, but I'm at a point, this is the most discouraging thing I've ever experienced in law enforcement.
And the drug crisis is getting worse.
All right, Jay, have a seat.
When I say rapidly evolving, it's coming at us like we've never seen.
John DeLina is the DEA Assistant Special Agent in charge for New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont. He explains 2 emerging threats in this region you need to know about. The first, counterfeit prescription pills pressed with the synthetic opioid fentanyl. The second, cocaine mixed with fentanyl.
I think it's just an example of these bad guys who think that fentanyl can almost be used anywhere to spread their product, to create more product, and they're sprinkling it in hopes that they can spread that product out more, and we're seeing more and more cases of that. They saw this area and they saw an appetite for opioids here, and they seized it and they pushed their product onto this market just like any other business would do. Sadly, it's overtaken this area.
Caparello says he's witnessed a third threat emerge on the streets of Manchester, a synthetic opioid called carfentanil.
We're going to have a nightmare because it's such a potent, it's an elephant tranquilizer.
It's 100 times more powerful than fentanyl and takes a lot more Narcan to save your life.
We knew there was something stronger in the city other than just heroin or fentanyl. There had to be some other synthetic opioid that was out there that was causing us to use more.
We started seeing carfentanil in the lab at end of April of 2017.
Tim Pfeiffer, the director of the State Police Forensics Lab, says in the first 3 weeks alone, they investigated 20 cases of carfentanil overdoses in New Hampshire, some of them deadly.
It is so dangerous, it actually can be transmitted transdermally, which means if it gets on your skin, the effects can actually be felt that way.
And potentially more alarming is the fact that there isn't just one person dealing in carfentanil.
We can tell that it's multiple sources because of the different cutting agents that are used and the different packaging techniques.
In the meantime, Caporello is expecting his teams to be responding to more of these overdoses.
When there's a suspected fatality to some sort of opioid in here, that's what people want, because they want that stronger high. I think that's what the dealers have in mind. They're going to make something powerful that people are going to want.
To stop the supply into Manchester, Celine says local, state, and federal law enforcement need to focus on the bigger picture.
That's why it's so important to work these cases back. You know, we just can't keep playing defense. We attack sources, right? That's what we're looking at. We're not looking at cities, we're looking at sources. And regardless of where that city is or where in the country it is, we're attacking the source. When we go after the source, we have to throw everything that we can at it.
To find the sources and figure out how they're able to pump so many drugs into New England, we travel 1,700 miles to the first stop on the opioid pipeline, the Dominican Republic. That's next on Beyond the Border, the opioid pipeline. The DR is a major transshipment point for cocaine, heroin, and other drugs coming from South and Central America to the United States.
If you were to visualize an alligator's tail, they can jump on these little islands step by step by step until they get to the main transshipment point, which is Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic.
And with the U.S. focusing heavily on securing the southern border, smugglers are looking for alternate routes.
We're going to see a lot more coming through the Caribbean, especially with the focus, on the southern border of Mexico, where it's going to be more difficult for drug traffickers to come through the border there.
Matthew Donahue, the DEA special agent in charge of the Caribbean division, says there's been a dramatic increase in drug flow through the region.
Statistics that we have over the last year could be upwards to about 190 metric tons coming through the Caribbean corridor. To put that in perspective, 5 years ago, we had 39 tons going through.
The bulk of it is cocaine.
They're producing maybe upwards maybe 60% more cocaine just down in Colombia for export.
Which dealers in the Northeast are buying and increasingly mixing with opioids.
It didn't make sense to me that people were mixing that, but then I looked at it from the other end, which was they're sitting there saying, oh, this stuff makes the stuff stronger and we can spread more of it by sprinkling it in there.
It's all about the money, which Donahue says the dealers are also making by trafficking heroin. Smaller quantities, but bigger profits.
People got to realize the heroin coming up from here is not the heroin you're using on the street. I mean, it's very potent. They still got to get it to a place where they're getting the added dilutants, added cut materials, and make that 1 kilo into 5 kilos before they get it onto the street level, ready for resale.
Drug trafficking organizations are also pumping counterfeit prescription drugs laced with fentanyl into the pipeline. In late April, DEA agents in the Dominican Republic uncovered and shut down 5 fake pill mill operations.
Definitely the first of its kind that we've seen from actually outside of China. The DR doesn't produce the chemicals needed to make fentanyl, but our latest success on dismantlization of 5 fentanyl labs shows you that they're coordinating with various people in China, Mexico, United States to get the chemicals there to reproduce these false pills and to sell them on the streets of the United States.
Finding and seizing these drugs, coming in on boats, stashed in caves,
11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
or hidden in secret compartments in cars and vans on the move, is extremely challenging given the country's natural barriers.
The Dominican Republic is a big, big country. It's attached with the border of Haiti. And there's a lot of parks and lands, that's just untouched, that no one even lives in. That's jungle area. And they have some experts in there that know how to navigate that.
And navigate the 800 miles of coastline.
Some people look out and see the beautiful ocean. We look out and see, man, look at all these ways that a go-fast boat could come in here and drop off drugs.
This is one of thousands of points around the island that is truly ideal for drug traffickers. In some cases, they'll park their go-fast boats about 10 miles offshore. They'll have runners pick up the drugs in boats like this one, bring it back to shore, offload it onto a truck. Now, what you can't see is that there's a main road nearby. There's almost no development, so no one's watching what's going on.
We know this because we went to the source, a Dominican drug smuggler, to find out.
We do anything necessary to prepare to prevent any problems or complications.
Wanting to avoid any complications with his bosses, this drug smuggler agrees to our interview on condition of anonymity. He says his life and those of his wife and children depend on it.
What you see on TV is mostly accurate. There's a lot of death associated with the business.
This smuggler's been in the narco business for more than 6 years.
My role is that of receiver. I receive all the drugs that come in from Colombia and Venezuela. What they bring in the fast boats, I receive it and we bring it in through the coast of Santo Domingo.
And the loads are getting bigger.
Some time ago, we used to receive boats that would carry anywhere between 500 and 600 kilos. Now they bring in 1,000 to 2,000 kilos.
And DEA estimates that law enforcement only stops about 20% of the drugs coming through the pipeline. This drug smuggler credits their success to being able to buy their way in and out of the country.
Yes, a little bit of corruption. Sometimes we have a lot of information from people on the inside, people who are supposed to be working against us. For example, there are people, such as the ones that are in the ports, that are with the narcos when they make phone calls back and forth, and they inform us,
making the job even harder for the limited number of DEA special agents on the ground.
Once they get that sense of power, they get the money, they can corrupt police officers, they can corrupt foreign governments, they can corrupt politicians, they can corrupt bankers. That's what they need. The more money they get, the more their power grows.
To better challenge that expanding power, DEA agents work with their trusted counterparts in the country's drug control agency known as the DNCD.
When it comes to the war on drug trafficking, if you're not working together, we can't accomplish anything. And it's not just the DEA and the Dominican Republic, or the DEA and the DNCD, but it's the DEA in every country in the world. All of us. If we don't fight together against drug trafficking, it's very, very difficult to achieve victory.
Colonel Juan Faustino Olivares Amparo directs the country's Sensitive Investigations Unit, or SIU, a joint operation between the DNCD and DEA.
It's a group that we work directly with in these foreign countries, with our host station counterparts and their version of their narcotic squad usually. They're officers that we select that have a pretty good background, that are trusted, honest. We interview them. They work with us a little bit. Once we decide that we think they should be in this unit, they go to Quantico, Virginia, to the DEA Academy. So they need to have this training to understand how to gather evidence, just like we do. You know, there's a chain of custody. You know, they got to know how to do undercover buys. They got to know how to do surveillance. They got to know how to film, interview informants, and handle them. Because these informants or these officers might have to testify one day in a grand jury in the United States or in trial.
As the colonel gives us an exclusive tour of the secret SIU headquarters, he says this training is critical in maintaining the integrity of the investigations.
A judge has to know that the information that came in through legal methods, that the person who received such information has been vetted and certified properly.
It's the gem of our agency. It's our vetted unit. They train with us. We travel together. We work together. We do everything together. We feel like they're part of us.
This DEA agent, who asked us not to identify him on camera because of his undercover work, explains what his Dominican partners bring to the table.
The cultural understanding of where they live and where they operate, and the undeniable fact that you can't separate that this is real for them. This isn't something far away. This is their country. This is what they're fighting for.
And while they're fighting drug traffickers armed with unlimited money and manpower, he explains why it's so important not to give up.
Because it's right, and because it's not just about drugs. It's about everything. The same groups that import drugs are responsible for human trafficking. They're responsible for illegal trades, money laundering. They're responsible for everything. These are criminal networks.
If they make it to the next stop on the opioid pipeline, these criminal networks are much closer to bringing their drugs into the continental United States. That stop is Puerto Rico.
And once you made it there, once you've made it to the island, you can move around the rest of the country. You won.
Coming up next on Beyond the Border, the opioid pipeline, we show you why Puerto Rico's been dubbed America's back door in the drug crisis.
We had to be tougher. People are not afraid anymore. Kids are not afraid anymore.
Carlos Mendez is the mayor of Aguadilla, a city on the northwest coast of Puerto Rico that's clearly battling its own drug crisis. That's one of maybe a dozen right in this one little area that's a used needle, obviously. We found 47-year-old Magali sitting on a curb, surrounded by trash, about to get high.
No, I just stayed here because I'm going to smoke. I have my stuff on me, so I'm going to do it now.
What is that?
Crack.
As she begins to tell me how she became addicted, I realize her story isn't much different than those of people I've interviewed on the streets of Manchester. She says she started with pain pills.
I need it for my knees and my back because you see, my knee, my leg is swollen. See, because I have an operation here. I do it for pain.
She'll do anything to get the money to feed her habit. How do you get the money?
Well, working, see? Working.
Working doing what?
Everything. I sold away trash. I do everything. Sometimes you do things that you never think that you're gonna do, you know.
And she says she doesn't have the will to get help.
I'm trying to stop doing this, but it's hard. You know, it's hard.
As we get up to leave, she lights up her crack pipe and gets high. Mayor Mendez says this drug crisis will only get worse if the opioid pipeline continues to run through this U.S. territory. And it's up to the U.S. government to pay more attention to what's going through America's back door.
They can close all borders. They can close the Canada, they can close the border in Mexico, but there's a back door open, which is Puerto Rico.
And without more resources, law enforcement won't be able to cut off island access to the traffickers.
We need more protection. If we want to protect our people in the United States, we need to secure all our borders. Start building those drones in camera. Let's fly them all over the Caribbean. Let's do a force. Let's get together.
On land, at sea, and up in the air, we wanted to find out what's being done to attack the drug trafficking organizations in all arenas. That's next on Beyond the Border, the Opioid Pipeline. The Airport Investigations and Tactical Team, or AirTAT for short, covers both of Puerto Rico's main airports and searches for smugglers and their drugs.
The goal is to catch it here before it makes its way to its final destination, which is to the Northeast United States.
We try to be at the airport as much as we can because in reality, this is the getaway.
DEA Special Agent Javier Calzada says his team focuses on the people and cargo on flights coming in from major source countries like Colombia and the Dominican Republic, and on flights headed out to key destinations on the opioid pipeline.
When I'm saying key destinations, I'm talking about the East Coast, you know. They go to New York, they go to Boston. I cannot go into the details of what we exactly do, but yeah, we talk to people, we ask questions, and we try to differentiate between a legitimate passenger and basically a mule.
Is there ever a day where there are not some drugs flowing through this airport?
No, I hate to say it, but no.
While the sheer numbers of flights and passengers can easily overwhelm their resources, Calzada says they're getting pretty good at predicting behavior.
They try to catch late flights or really early flights, you know, or on the weekends. They tend to think that we don't work on the weekends. That's a mistake. We are here. We're watching 24/7.
And with the help of these canines from the Puerto Rican Police Department, or PRPD, they can quickly scan and sniff out drugs packed inside carry-ons and check luggage.
To be honest with you, if it wasn't for them, our job could be really, really hard to do.
For Calzada and his colleague, Task Force Officer Carlos Gonzalez, tracking down dealers and their drugs is their job. But it's also a personal mission.
I have a brother that he died using drugs.
I have an older brother who was addicted to heroin. He got AIDS. He got infected because he was sharing needles. He's basically done.
But the threat to others is far from over. And like in the Dominican Republic, DEA Group Supervisor Michael Miranda says traffickers are able to pay off people in their path.
We've had situations where airport employees are assisting, suitcases filled with drugs getting through security, being placed on airplanes. There's so much money to be made that people are willing to sacrifice and take the chance.
You will be amazed how much people they have working for them.
Amalek Perez is a Marine interdiction agent for U.S. Customs and Border Protection. His role is clear.
Anything try to bring illegal or drugs can be human smuggling, all that, so we stop everything that is on the water. That's our jurisdiction, stopping boats in the water.
How serious is the drug problem here?
It's more serious than a lot of people think about. Because you might see in the news here and there a load or a boat that land in any specific point of the island. So you see, oh, once a week. No, it's more than that.
Since there's so much water to cover, they rely on two things. The first, information from federal and foreign partners.
It's all about the intelligence. How fast can you pass it? How rapidly can you get it? And what are our contacts like in that foreign element or that foreign arena that have assets there that we can go to them with sensitive information to go after that go-fast boat or that fishing vessel.
They also rely on eyes in the sky. The Caribbean Air and Marine Operations Center uses radar to identify, track, and intercept boats and planes trying to get into Puerto Rico illegally.
We support it as a command and control element with coordinating ground forces and coordinating support.
Director Sonny Marcombe says the drug traffickers are focusing heavily on their sea routes, and with so many boats in the water, they know how to blend in.
Sailboats, charter yachts, small fishing boats. Very difficult mission to accomplish as far as identifying what is the threat.
That's where Air and Marine agents on the Dash 8 Marine Patrol aircraft come in.
We have a high definition optics that allow us to not only detect the target, but follow it for extended periods of time. And the cameras are so powerful that we could essentially identify individuals almost by face.
And when they spot a smuggler on the go, they can call in their partners or send in the Black Hawk.
We have an aerial disabling fire program where we utilize a .50 caliber rifle to disable boat engines if they fail to yield. We also have the ability to carry a tactical team on board where we can actually land the aircraft in the vicinity of the vessel when it makes landfall, deploy a tactical team to seize the contraband and effect the arrest.
On the ground, stationed at the port in San Juan, these U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers closely monitor who and what's coming and going on this ferry between Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic.
Many of them are legitimate travelers, but there are some others that are using that mode of transportation to bring drugs.
Area Port Director Edwin Cruz says it's mostly cocaine and heroin coming from the DR. On the way back, it's usually stashes of cash.
Mainly, it's the proceeds of those narcotics that have been sold. So, and we have seized millions. Like this 2016, we seized like $5 million just on cash smuggling from Puerto Rico back to Dominican Republic.
But the money and drugs aren't always easy to find.
They use those vehicles on cargo vehicles. They use the trucks. They use the bed of the trucks. They use the chassis. They use the water tank for the wipers. They use the dashes. I mean, we have found everything here. We're almost mechanics here, just dismantling vehicles that we have put some interest on it just to find drugs.
Along with the drugs, law enforcement must stop the flow of people through the opioid pipeline. Drug trafficking organizations need manpower, distributors and dealers in their target communities across the United States. And they're using black market IDs to get them there.
All you got to do is get a driver's license. Get a fake driver's license. Being a U.S. territory, you show up at the airport with your ID. Go right through TSA and you already have your ticket and you're headed to the States. No passport needed, so it makes it very easy to come in and be able to smuggle narcotics through Puerto Rico up to the United States. It's very easy.
These pictures were taken from 2 counterfeiting labs uncovered in the Dominican Republic in 2017. DEA says travel documents are sometimes created from scratch, but many are real IDs stolen and modified with fake entry or exit stamps to help a person obtain a real visa.
Someone can enter through any part of the island, buy a fake ID, try to enter through any airport, and move to the United States only with that ID. So that simple it is.
Still, they have to get through trained investigators, natives like Cruz, who aren't easily fooled.
Sí or no? Some IDs are simply fake. I mean, you can see that immediately, but also the demeanor of the person entering through a checkpoint, the way that person dressed, the way that person behaved, and the interview that we conduct just to ensure that that person knows exactly where he or she comes from.
However, there is a huge incentive for traffickers to get through.
If you're in the Dominican Republic and you're able to buy a kilo of cocaine for $8,000, you bring it to this island here in Puerto Rico, and it's $20,000, $15,000 to $20,000. Then you bring it to the States in New Hampshire, you're up in the 30s.
Once out of the Caribbean, the largest distribution stops up the Northeast Corridor include Miami, Orlando, New York, and...
Thank you and welcome to Boston.
Next on Beyond the Border, the Opioid Pipeline, we take you onto the tarmac at Logan to show you how U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents are trying to find the drugs before they're rolled out of the airport.
When a foreign traveler enters the United States, this is considered as a front line. If that passenger passes through us, then whatever he's bringing in, it's in the United States.
With an average of 7,200 international passengers and crew per day, U.S. Customs and Border Protection Officer Ermir Shulaku says it's impossible to screen every person.
So everything belongs to you? Yeah.
And every bag that comes through Logan Airport. Even more challenging, Shulaku says the smugglers are always changing their strategies.
I've gone through millions of bags, and think about it, like I'm an expert doing my job. They're experts of hiding and transporting drugs into the United States. So they have all their time in the world to be creative and hide things in a way that they think we're not going to be able to find it.
They still need to bring it in, and that's the easiest way to bring it in. So they get creative, and we just need to be creative back to find it.
Officer Brett Sweet is part of the Passenger Enforcement Rover Team, which targets flights from source countries like this one from the Dominican Republic. Sweet also focuses on what he calls anomalies.
You're looking at a bag, some people might see a bag, but if you're reviewing the trends, you might know that a particular bag can only be purchased in a particular country. And if it's coming from a different country, you may have a good reason to look at that bag.
Some of the smugglers who get through Logan hit the road and head straight to one of New Hampshire's source cities on the border to set up shop. We're talking about Lowell, Methuen, Lawrence, and Haverhill, Massachusetts. Lawrence being the largest supplier by far.
In Lawrence, it's every other house, every third house is something going on. Because like I said, I've come down here randomly in random spots, and just found it.
Over the course of 15 years, this 35-year-old father, who asked us not to use his name, says he's tried just about everything he could buy.
Cocaine, crack, which is another form of cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, mushrooms, acid, ecstasy, ketamine, PCP.
Why would you come here and not try and get some in New Hampshire?
It's way cheaper than Manchester, way cheaper and better. By the time it comes from here to Manchester, it's cut and doubled in price.
And while he feared getting caught,
there's so many people and there's so much going on and there's so many dealers. It's unless they have a cop for every 3 people, it's almost, unfortunately, it's almost impossible to stop. It is impossible to stop right now. I could walk around in 10 minutes and you'd probably find you 3 or 4 people. It's that easy.
With law enforcement supervision, we take him up on his offer to show us how easy it is to buy drugs and drug paraphernalia in Lawrence. He takes us to a convenience store.
You go inside, you go to the register, and you say 1 and 1. And for $1.50, they give you, this is called a stem. And you see them in stores, it's called a love rose. That's what it's for. I mean, who wants a little rose in a glass tube? And this is called Chore Boy. It's like a cleaning thing, like you scrub pans with. You can go into Rite Aid or CVS right on 28 there on the left. You can go in and they'll sell you a 10-pack of needles too for $3.
Up next, heroin or fentanyl. Armed with $40 and no contacts, it takes him less than 10 minutes to score right up the street from a Lawrence police officer standing outside his cruiser.
Hey, you guys know where I can get some? Do you guys know where I can get some?
Come, we'll sit over
All right. Thank you, man. 2 people looked, You know, I asked them, acted like I was sick and I needed it, and they called their buddy on a bike. Within a minute, he was there with it, and then wanted my number.
Lawrence Police Chief James Fitzpatrick would not talk to us about our experience or the escalating crisis in his city, but it doesn't take a law enforcement leader to explain one of their biggest challenges.
Lawrence is just a small city with just overpopulated, so it's hard for them to keep track of, you know, how many people there really are, because thousands and thousands of them that sell drugs in Lawrence. It takes over, like cockroaches. It just takes over. They multiply, and then people know that it's easy to get stuff there, so they'll travel all the way. They'll drive 3 hours to go to Lawrence.
The next stop on the opioid pipeline, the New Hampshire border. Up next, how law enforcement on the ground and up in the air are tracking dealers and drugs flowing into the Granite State.
He's pulling over exit 6 and mark to see where we're going to stay up as overwatch as high as we can. We're able to see them, we're able to watch them, and they can run as fast as they want, but you can't outrun us.
New Hampshire State Police spends a lot of time in the skies and on the highways, stopping dealers and users traveling back and forth to Lawrence and the surrounding cities.
You are under arrest, okay? Go ahead and turn around for me, put your hands behind your back.
It is our front line, right? We know it's on the doorstep of New Hampshire, which is unique. It's also convenient in a way because we know directly where we can target a response. So we know that most likely it's going to hit the pipeline of I-95, I-93, Everett Turnpike. So we know where to focus.
And what resources will be the most effective.
We've got a street-level approach, which is public. It's viewable for the people to see.
Put your hands right here. I'm going to pat you down real quick, okay? No needles, nothing that's going to stick me or poke me? Okay. Is your license valid? Yes, sir.
From Trooper Stefan Chizovsky's perspective, the crisis is getting far worse.
I mean, I'm stopping people that are carrying Narcan with them. I stopped a girl the other day, and she had a prescription bottle in her glove box, and, oh, what do you have there? And, oh, it's my Narcan. Why do you have Narcan? Oh, I'm recovering, and I'm still close with a lot of people who use. So I want to be able to protect them. No matter what we do to fight it, there's still going to be people that want to sell drugs. There's still going to be the drug dealers that find that easy way. There's still going to be people who want to use drugs. You're never going to eliminate it.
And there's a growing number of people who do both.
Just turn around for me.
To keep business booming and spreading into the far corners of the state and region, drug trafficking organizations turn users into neighborhood dealers.
The user that went down to purchase the drugs is coming back and front-loaded with, quite honestly, dealer amounts, much more than they need personally.
Returning to New Hampshire only to sell those drugs to other addicts in order to make a little bit of money for themselves and additionally to supply their own habit.
And what you've got there is you've got a perfect blend of supply and demand.
I sell because I use.
This 21-year-old from Manchester began using at 16 and dealing at 18. He's been arrested several times, but his biggest concern as he sits in this holding cell high on heroin isn't more jail time.
I just don't want to be sick from not getting high.
And when he gets out, he's not making a career change.
I have 4 felonies on my record, being 21, so it's really hard to get a job. You know, I have no college education. I do have a high school diploma. I can go work at Burger King or McDonald's, and nobody can support themselves working there full time. It's not possible. I know selling drugs and getting high. That's what I know how to do.
And like a growing number of street-level drug users, he has no idea what he's selling you or your kids.
When you sell, do you know what you're selling?
9 out of 10 times no. When you get it, they don't tell you, hey, this is fentanyl. Like, if it's really strong, they might say, hey, like, watch out, you need to do something with this so it doesn't kill people.
We use those people to gain insight into the drug world and to learn more about it. We take that information that we're learning on the street and we're cultivating that into investigations that you don't see just yet.
Okay, we have everybody? Yeah, we're good. State police, come to the door! State police, search warrant! State police, search warrant! Get on the ground right now!
After months of investigating, the New Hampshire State Police Narcotics Unit searches this Lakes Region home, top to bottom, inside and out, for drugs, weapons, and money.
When you look at a house like this, how do you approach this? How challenging is it when you actually search an entire house like this?
Well, it's really about what type of intelligence you can develop. You know, we had some intelligence that this individual utilized hides like this, homemade hides, and you know, that's something we've come to expect, you know, from everybody, that they're going to hide their drugs in their house somewhere, that they're usually not just out in the open or even just under a couch cushion. But obviously when we find something like this, it's a lot more challenging, because we know that this individual has gotten creative, and it's not just, you know, somewhere out of the ordinary that they're hiding things. It's something that's created a void in a wall, a hole in the floor, something in the ceiling. It takes a lot more time and energy. You got to put forth the effort and, you know, try to discover those things. But obviously good intel, nothing beats it.
Thousands of dollars in cash, guns, and drugs, including carfentanil, the most dangerous synthetic opioid for sale in New Hampshire, are discovered inside. As the homeowner heads to jail, his girlfriend offers us some insight into their world of drugs.
Right now you have local and state law enforcement going through every single piece of your house.
No.
Everything you own. When you see them and you're hearing what's going on right now, tell me what's running through your mind.
I'm scared. I knew that, you know, this could, you know, it already happened once, that it could happen again.
The girlfriend is also the mother of their 2.5-year-old daughter, who, for her safety, now lives with other family members.
Has she ever been here while you've been using?
Yeah, she was here like last time when they came. That's why we got charged with neglect.
How does it feel knowing, though, you're a mom with your little girl in the house while you're doing heroin? What do you think about when you hear that?
Feel like a piece of shit. Feel like crap.
There's a lot of people that are touched by it. This wasn't just his and her personal stash. This is what they're doing for business. This is what they're doing to make money. This is what they're doing to pay bills. The average citizen of New Hampshire has no idea of how many drug arrests that there really are in the state.
And how many of those dealers police say got here through Puerto Rico using fake IDs. That's next on Beyond the Border, the opioid pipeline.
The average citizen of New Hampshire has no idea of how many drug arrests that there really are in the state.
Especially when it comes to using black market IDs to get legitimate New Hampshire driver's licenses.
Just before the interview, I received a call. There was what we call an imposter, came into the Nashua DMV.
New Hampshire State Police Detective Sergeant Dave McCormick leads the Department of Motor Vehicles Task Force. In 1 year, from May of 2016 to May of 2017, his team investigated 75 cases and made 25 arrests for people using fake IDs at the DMV.
846, counter 7.
McCormick says nearly all of them came through the opioid pipeline from the Dominican Republic.
The cases that I've been personally involved with, which is every one since May of 2016, is exactly what you say. The Dominican Republic to Puerto Rico to the United States to Mass, New Hampshire.
McCormick says he works closely with PRPD investigators to identify the so-called imposters.
We can call them, we can give them a name, they'll run the name immediately, they'll call us back within usually 10 or 15 minutes, and they'll end up sending a photograph of the actual true ID holder, is what we refer to them as. This is the funny part, you'll be sitting with what we call imposter, the photograph of the true ID will come through, and we show that to them, and of course it's not them.
They can go to different states and illegally obtain real licenses, if you will. It's easier to hide. It's easy for you to assimilate into society and just be part of the community like no one knows the difference.
With all of these challenges, law enforcement says it's impossible to completely shut down the opioid pipeline. And if they can't cut off the supply, communities need to focus on reducing demand.
The world of drugs it's a very powerful force.
I'm going to tell you the ground truth right now. This did not happen by accident.
By a show of hands, how many people personally know somebody who has died from a drug overdose?
You have to take care of your children, take care of your family, take care of them as much as you can. Prevent them from ending up in the streets. I have my own kids and I would never want them to end up in this business. Never. I ask God to take care of them.
One thing that we always see is that they never stop. They're going to terrorize neighborhoods. They're going to hook kids on drugs. They're going to make sure people are using them, because they need clients. You taking drugs is fueling drug trafficking organizations and terrorist organizations who are laundering money for these drug trafficking organizations.
If you never put one in, you're never gonna get addicted, you know? It's a choice you make.
If you're not learning, you're not doing your job.
And if you don't do anything now, if we turn a blind eye, it could be your son or your daughter that's shooting up in a back alley.
Wherever is money, wherever we have drugs, it's the same problem.
Think about how many people could die or have died, just under 488 deaths last year alone in New Hampshire. That's unacceptable. I mean, think about the totality of the number of people that have died in the state in a year.
The only thing you see is money. That's all I think about.
This is all about the money.
The law enforcement leaders in our special granted us Frontlines access so you could see the bigger picture and better understand why so many communities are flooded with drugs. They also hope the special will inspire greater cooperation among local, state, federal, and international law enforcement agencies, all working towards the same goals: to dismantle drug trafficking organizations and bring those people to justice. Reporting in Manchester, New Hampshire, I'm Celine McArthur.